Hi, my name's Raywin Bailey and I've written a piano book for adults. I've been teaching adults for over 40 years and I realised quite early on that there wasn't a book on the market that was suitable for the way I felt adults learned and the way I taught. I thought there were very important fundamentals that were making it difficult for adults to learn with those particular books. They mostly went too quickly and expected too much from the adult too early on. Teachers who found this then resorted to teaching adults with children's books, and adults very often found this a little bit demeaning. So I wrote this book a number of years ago, and quite a few of my adult students who were beginners have used it. One of my more recent students has encouraged me to publish it, and it is available on Amazon. It's called Let's Begin. That's the most frequent question I'm asked by adults. Am I too old to learn? And I say, you're never too old to learn. Let's begin. My book starts very simply from middle C, like many books. But the difference is, instead of having both hands here and then immediately going down to C in the bass, we go down one step at a time. So we progress from this position, C, B, A, G, F, then we go up to G, A, B, C, D, and likewise the right hand, D, E, F, G, A. The left hand then moves down to E, so you're just learning one new note and also F sharp. And then the right hand, E, F sharp, G, A, B. So B is your new note. So you're only learning one new note at a time in each hand. But with those new positions, I try and introduce a whole lot of new ideas. So there are a few fundamentals which I believe are very important for anybody learning the piano. The first one is posture. So make sure that your back is well supported, that your arms are just gently sloping into the keyboard. They shouldn't be down here and they shouldn't be up here. Keep your shoulders nice and relaxed. Don't do the teenage slouch where you curl under your pelvis like this and end up sort of flapping on the piano, because you'll get a very bad back very quickly if you do that. So posture well supported. The other thing is not to look at your hands in the early stages. So I've written this book so that it's possible not to look at your hands at all, but to learn to feel. If you can develop good keyboard feel, you'll be able to read much more quickly and you'll be able to play with continuity at the piano. It stands to reason, if you're reading a note there, then you look down to find where the note is on the piano. When you look back up again, you've lost your place. I'd like to believe that very early on, the pieces have a certain charm. So even in the first lesson, you'd be playing something like this, just with using 3 fingers in the right hand and 3 fingers in the left hand. The notes are A, B, C in the left and C, D, E in the right. So this is a little song. couple of other points which I really labour with my students, and one is to do with repeated notes. Don't stab the notes with your finger if you've got a repeated note, so don't do this kind of thing. Lift from your shoulder, or it will seem like you're lifting from your elbow. Just a gentle lift. Now, the other thing that you need to learn is something called legato, which is where you're connecting the sounds, and this is fundamental to being a beautiful piano player. So once you're changing notes, so say from C to B in the bass, you want the movement to come from there on the thumb and from the knuckle there in the second finger. To do with hand position, try and keep your thumb in a line with your second finger, and you'll get this nice hollow here and this beautiful dome shape. And later on, that will enable you to tuck the thumb under without any movement of the elbow, so you don't look like a flappy fowl or chicken flapping its wings when you're turning. So everything should be as still and relaxed as possible. So joining notes, that's something adults often find quite hard, and you end up with a sort of halfway house like that. But if you work at it, you'll be able to get that nice connected sound. That tends to happen more, the problems, once you start playing hands together. Now, probably in your second or third lesson in my book, you'll come to another little piece called Lullaby, and this introduces expression, which is signs like MP, standing for mezzo piano, moderately soft, and MF, standing for mezzo forte, moderately loud, and various degrees of soft and loud. So this is Lullaby. I would strictly encourage my students to practice separate hands first before they try it together, because what you want is a continuous flow from the start of the piece to the finish. Early on, once we get into the E minor position, I introduce chords. So this then makes an adult feel like they're really playing the piano once chords come into the equation. So here we have the tonic, the dominant seventh, and the subdominant chord. Don't worry too much about those names at the moment, it's just the change of chords. The next technique that I introduce is staccato, which is the opposite to legato. In staccato, as with repeated notes, it wants to be a movement coming from your arm. Finger staccato, this kind of thing, has a very particular pace, and it should only be used really when you can play quickly enough. So all the focus of staccato at this stage in your learning is going to be doing staccato with your own arm, coming out of the piano quickly but with a nice relaxed arm. So here's our staccato piece. Quavers have been introduced at this stage. Quavers are quicker notes. Theory is introduced along the way, but it would take too much time to go through all of that on this video. This is really just a taster of what is in the book. Now this is one of the more demanding coordinational exercises for my adults. This is playing staccato in one hand and legato in the other. Don't worry if you don't completely master the exercises. You'll come back to them in a few months and they'll be so simple you'll wonder why you had a problem with them at the time. That's part of progressing. Having done the exercises, then we learn a proper piece which incorporates those ideas. This is called the Clockwork Doll. I hope it sounds like one to you. To develop on from chords, we have a piece called The Lonely Farm, and just to give you an idea of how long ago I actually wrote this, this was written during the time of the foot and mouth crisis, when so many of the animals in the UK had to be destroyed and so many farms had no animals at all. So hence the title, The Lonely Farm. Each section of the book ends with a duet, something that you can play with your teacher or maybe with a friend who's more advanced than you are, but it's absolutely wonderful to play duets with somebody. It teaches you to listen and it gives you a way of sharing your piano skills. So the E minor section finishes with a duet. Then we move down one step to D. And in this, we learn two new notes, B flat, or we recall that, and C sharp. So we go through the chord ideas again, and we're doing this turning exercise. So it would be something like this. I said earlier on not to flap your arms when you're turning. So when you're turning from D in the right hand over to C sharp, just do it by squeezing the hand together. Don't do this. Okay? Because when you come to play scales, such as at the end of the book, if you lift your elbow every time you're tucking the thumb under, you'll get an enormous accent on the next note, and your playing will never sound smooth. So practice bringing the thumb across like that to the end of the fifth finger, and you can even practice doing 1 2 1 2 for a few notes, and then 1 3 and then 1 4, and you'll get used to tucking the thumb under. Right, so a piece based on what we've learned so far in D minor, the Arabian Dance. And then there's a different style of piece, one which is using a lot of movement like this, and that's the Indians. A piece which further develops chords is called the Banjo Player. So we finish off D with a little duet called A Gentle Breeze, which was a favourite of the person who's done the forward for Let's Begin. So we've got to D minor. We've learnt a new time signature by this point. Again, that's something that you will learn along the way about time signatures. And we play some pieces in 3/8 time. We do quite a lot of work, contrary motion, which is going in opposite directions. And then we get to C major. So we have chords again in C major, and then we have more challenging chords. So we're moving up now to the next C in the right hand. So we've got that C, and that C. So starting here in the right hand, this is incorporating slightly more challenging chords. And so the book introduces some scale passages at this point, the dotted note, and playing with independence of hands. And the last little recital piece is little waltz. Now, I would hope you would agree that by the end of the book, you're playing at a pretty respectable level. I have written book 2, which I hope to publish at a later date, but in the interim, I recommend my pupils to go on to other compilations of books. So I hope this little taster of my book, Let's Begin, has encouraged you to feel that you'd like to buy it and to learn from it, and that you can see that it goes through a quite rapid progression, but never at a pace that is faster than you want to go. So it's entirely up to you, and I hope you feel that the tunes are worth playing. So thank you very much for taking the time to listen to this video, and please do have a look for the book on Amazon. It's called Let's Begin, and the cover has those colours. Thank you and goodbye.